Good morning. Welcome back to Meet at the Tavern. We're up to section 4 of our 6-part series on the Biden-Sanders Manifesto, which is also known as the Biden-Sanders Unity Task Force Recommendations. This radical agenda the Democrats are following word by word, line by line. So in our first part, we covered combating the climate crisis and pursuing environmental justice. Protecting communities by reforming our criminal justice system was number 2. And part 3, section 3, was building a stronger, fairer economy.
Which was nothing.
So if you hadn't had the chance, go back and listen to 1 through 3. It's up on our website, fedupwithpolitics.com. Catch up because it's a pretty good education. We also have a few other things on our website that's beneficial to you, like the Federalist Papers and the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution. There's a ton of stuff, like H.R. 1, all elected officials up there. So if you don't know who your elected officials are, they're up there for you. Yeah,
that H.R. 1 is supposed to come back into the front and center when Congress comes back from recess.
Right. So, like I said, it's all about education. So let us know what you think. So today, we're going to talk about providing a world-class education in every zip code. So we'll start with Jack and his opening thoughts.
Okay, listen, first off, providing a world-class education in every zip code, just so you guys know, this is the Democrat theory on all of these. This is a fantasy writing that this is what they want. This is not what we agree with. We're going over it and showing the faults of it. And
everything's not bad in it, but there's a lot. 99% is.
Absolutely. 99%. I don't know. Again, we have one of these, a South Carolina representative. I want to see if these boards are getting paid to write this garbage and figure out, well, they're not figuring out anything. They're just rewriting everything on 2 separate things. But I'd like to see if these, like, the board on this one is a Representative Marsha Fudge, Heather Goetney, Alejandro Alder, Lily Elkelson Garcia, Maggie Thompson, Christy Vilsack, Randy Weingartner. Yeah, she's a pro. Harukuso Yashikawa. So I want to know, in all 6 of these, they all have their own board members to figure out all of these ingenious ideas that they're coming up with. It's very sad. I actually counted how many times they were going to fund this, raising more money into these. So they talked about funding 21 times. 21 times and 27 pages on how they're supposed to pay for this. They didn't say where the funds are going to come from, how they're going to raise it. Everything's supposed to be for free, and everybody's supposed to have a great paying job. So with that said, just like the energy part we said, well, if everything's free and everything's so cheap to do, how are these people going to get paid high salaries?
Right.
Yeah, everybody's going to have a high salary and everybody's going to prosper through this. Yet they don't say where they're going to take the money from. I think one time they talk about raising taxes, but they didn't say how much. So again, understanding 21 times they're going to raise funds for this school. Who knows how many times they're going to raise funds, because I didn't count them for the first 3 podcasts. So they're raising money like crazy to do this. They have no idea what buildings they're going to put these new institutes in, how they're going to fund them, how they're going to get people through the education system to run these jobs, all of that. So basically this is a house of cards that's ready to fall down, because there is no true idea on how they're going to do any of these.
You know, this manifesto is 110 pages long. 110 pages of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
It's crazy what they want to do. But you'll hear Jack and I say all the time on this podcast that education is so important, and we really believe that. And we really believe that knowledge is power. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we started this podcast in the first place, to educate not only you guys but us too. For the ones that don't have the time to do the research, we love doing it, and we'll keep doing it because education is important. There's one part I do agree with, and it's in the first paragraph. They believe that education is a critical public good, not a commodity, and that it's the government's responsibility to ensure that every child everywhere is able to receive a world-class education that enables them to lead meaningful lives no matter their race, zip code, disability status, sexual orientation, gender identity, or household income. Folks, there's only two genders, male and female. And if you want to consider yourself something else, that's your business. But God created only Adam and Eve. So male and female. Those are the only two genders. I mean, our government of today needs to stay out of the classroom. Most of these schools nowadays don't even say the Pledge of Allegiance anymore. That is something we did every day before we started school. We stood in homeroom, placed our hands over our hearts, and recited the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you don't remember, it's I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands. What is so wrong about reciting that, Jack?
Well, you're pledging your allegiance to your country from when you're little until you're grown. People take that pledge and go into the military, first responders, whatever they are. But for these people, that's blasphemy because they don't believe in this country.
The ending is one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. People want to come to our country, because we're the best place on the face of the earth for jobs, for everything. But yet, Democrats, they don't like the American flag for some reason. I don't get it. What is so wrong with the American flag? It's just crazy to think that people who actually died for that are losing out the most, because their families need to carry on their names. On one hand, the manifesto talks about making America great.
Their America.
Yeah, and being leaders of the free world. But on the other hand, the Democrats are saying we live in the most racist country in the world. Like I said earlier, we have people coming from third world countries to make a better life for themselves. So, Democrats, you need to answer us. Are we racist? Are we a racist country like you say we are? Or are we the greatest country in the history of the world? Because you can't have both. You confuse people when you say we're racist, but then you say we're good. So what is it?
Well, it's funny because you mentioned the first paragraph. Unfortunately, in the first paragraph, first sentence, they go against scourge of anti-black racism. So there is no scourge of anti-black racism except in their own party. We went through this already on one of our podcasts, the history way up to the 1990s of racism in the Democratic Party. We went over the racist views of the President of the United States of today supporting Jim Crow laws and the people that supported that and filibustered to keep the what was that act? The minority in 1964, they passed it. Anyway, it was on that podcast. My sister's going to get mad at me again. I didn't write it down. So the Democratic Party is inherently racist throughout their entire history of the minute they were incepted into politics. So when you say about the racist, just look at yourselves, guys. And to reduce the board, I think what they need to do is reduce the board power. If they want to raise all this money, reduce the school board and their pay. Disavow them completely. They're spending hundreds of millions of dollars across the nation, maybe close to $1 billion, in school boards. People that look down on the parents, they put themselves higher at these school board meetings than the parents. The parents have to talk up to them. They talk down. And they need to be teaching the children math, science, reading, American pride, and history. How to manage their checkbooks and how to use their imagination. What they want is a complete failure as a system. They'll never put their own children in these school boards.
Nope.
In this new school. Early education through pre-K. This is what they want to teach in order. Social, emotional, cognitive, and then academic. Schools should be worrying about the academic. Let the parents worry about everything else. That's called raising your children.
You know, throughout this pandemic, schools needed a lot of money to make their schools safer, and they've received like hundreds of millions of dollars, and now they still don't want to open up.
Right. I mean, they spent all of this. They gave the school board so much money, and then they didn't open the schools anyway.
Yep. You know, so page 22, the last paragraph. Democrats believe they can and must do better for our children, our educators, and our country. We are committed to making the investment our students and teachers need to build equity and safeguard humanity in our educational system and guarantee every child can receive a great education. See, most of America has had a public education, and most of us have turned out pretty good. You know why? Because we had teachers who cared. They believed in us. They told us that the sky was the limit, and the only thing we had to do was believe in ourselves.
You could be president someday.
Yep, you could be president someday. Over the last several years, they created charter schools, and they were created to help improve our nation's public school system and offer parents a better option to meet their kids' needs, their specific needs. The core of the charter school model is the belief that public schools should be held accountable for student learning. If parents thought that their children were not receiving a good education in the public system, they could send them to a charter school. But Democrats want to do away with all funding, all federal funding for charter schools. I want to specifically mention California. They currently have a bill in the Senate called AB 1316. And I read this on a recent article. It was June 7th. The author is Jamie Parsons. He's from San Diego Newsweek. And it states, Democrats launch new attacks to abolish charter schools. Democratic political leaders in the California Teachers Association have a goal to abolish charter schools in California. It's authored by Democratic Assembly Education Committee Chairman Patrick O'Donnell. It targets non-classroom-based charter schools by imposing new burdens and proposing restrictions on funding, enrollment, and class schedules. For Democratic leaders in the CTA, 1316 is just the beginning of their journey in eradicating charter schools. California, my friends, is a Democratic state. So it's the Democrats trying to abolish these charter schools and do away with your choice to send your kids to the school you want for them to receive a better education. They want to dictate where your kids go to school. Mm-hmm. So answer this question to me. Do the Democrats really care about a modern world-class education system when they take the choice away from you? You know, on page 24 of this, it says they're black and white. It's right there in black and white, so you can see it. All right, they want to ban private charter businesses in their schools from receiving federal money. They want your children to go to public schools. So again, tell me, where's the choice?
Right, exactly. I got, in the first page, fourth paragraph, I have two sentences I want to go over. The first one is, we will support evidence-based programs and pedagogical approaches, including assessments that consider the well-being of the whole student and recognize the range of ways students can demonstrate learning. I don't even know what that means. Mm-hmm. I tried to look it up, and it makes no sense to me. It started getting me down rabbit holes, and I had no idea what they were talking about. Second one, we will reimagine our education system, guided by the stakeholders who know these issues best: young people, educators, parents, and community leaders. How do community leaders have a say in the children's education? Where does that come from? I mean, community leaders get to tell me what my child gets to learn? Again, taking their choice away. And again, I just wanted to go over this board. I found my paper with my notes. Representative Marsha Fudge, co-chair. She's Ohio 11th District, Democrat, never teached. Heather Gortney, co-chair, professor, liberal. Alejandro Alder, Center for Sustainable Development. That means nothing. He did nothing for a living, still is. That's why I'm sure he's getting paid to do this. Lily Eskelsen Garcia, union president. Maggie Thompson, former librarian and failed business owner. Christy Vilsack, political spouse and author. Randy Weingartner, union president and she's full of garbage. She's the worst out of all of them.
Hold on one sec. These teacher unions are so powerful that they dictate to the Democrats what they want.
Right, exactly. I mean, they're the ones that got all that money to the schools, and they did not open the schools up and told the teachers, you go on vacation, which you're not supposed to be going anywhere. They're supposed to be locked down. Don't put it on Facebook. You had one union president, a board member in California, bringing his own child to a private school in the morning and had his own schools closed. How is he bringing his own child to a daycare center that's open but won't let your kids go?
Yeah, Gavin Newsom sent his daughter to a private school.
Yeah.
They closed all the California schools.
And then Hikasu Yasushikawa, he's a professor at NYU. That says everything. But, yeah, I don't want to go through that.
That's good. Page 25, under making higher education affordable and accessible. I can agree. Education needs to be more affordable. But Democrats support making community colleges tuition free for all students, including Dreamers. A 2-year community college provides accessible, high-quality education for students of all ages. So who are the Dreamers? I mean, before we talk about that, we'll talk about that in a second. We need to talk about DACA, which was created under Obama in 2012. You can find this information. It's in the explainer. What is DACA and who are the Dreamers? So DACA is a federal government program created in 2012 under Barack Obama. It allowed people brought into the U.S. unlawfully as children, but temporarily, right legally to live, study, and work in America, instead of living in the legal shadows fearing deportation. Those applying were vetted, and an action to deport them would be deferred for 2 years, with a chance to renew on a rolling basis, and they would become eligible for basic things like a driver's license, college enrollment, or a work permit. This program is not designed as a path to permanent residency or citizenship. So who are the Dreamers? Those protected under DACA are known as Dreamers. But Trump announced his decision to rescind the program. Many hundreds of thousands have been granted approval. To apply, they must have been younger than 31 on June 15, 2012, which the program began, have arrived before the age of 16, and been undocumented, lacking legal immigration status. And most of these Dreamers are from Mexico, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. So we're giving illegal immigrants free college education. Yeah, in a utopian society, that would be great. But who's going to pay it? Who's going to pay for all these free college grants? And it's got to be us eventually. It's got to be paid back one way or another. I mean, we're seeing higher price than everything right now. Gas, food, you name it. Inflation is going to go up pretty good. It's going to go up pretty higher soon.
Yeah, well, they love inflation for big government.
I don't get that either.
Well, it's great for big government when you can't afford to buy a loaf of bread.
Yep. So our children and grandchildren will be paying the price. Wake up, folks. This isn't a joke. They're trying to take everything away from us that we have. It's a radical agenda. But they want to give 100% free education to illegal immigrants. You know, I was in the military, you know, and I get only 60% paid, you know. That's crazy that as a person who served our country will only get 60% of their military or of their schooling paid, but yet illegal immigrants will get 100%. What's up with that? I don't get that, Jack.
Yeah, well, again, none of this makes sense to us, but, you know, we're making fun of how dumb this is, but like we've said in other podcasts, especially with AOC, don't disregard what they're saying as insanity because it's all going through.
The people they have working for them are very smart.
And very rich.
Yes.
On page 23, first paragraph, guaranteeing universal early childhood education. One of the supporting programs they have is holistic school readiness. So I don't really understand what holistic school readiness means, but I did look up. So It is a development of person's intellectual, emotional, social, and physical, artistic, creating a spiritual potentials. There's no math, there's no science, there's no reading, and here's the name of a few schools that they have done this with that method. It's Padoga University of Krakow, Moscow State University. These are the kind of schools that they're taking these lessons from. That's not too good to me. When you're taking you're supporting holistic school readiness straight out of communist schools, and there's no teaching of math, science, reading, history. It's emotional, social, physical, artistic, creative, and spiritual potentials. That's what they want to teach your kids.
You know, I hated math in school. I was like terrible at math. But you want to be a scientist, you want to be in NASA. Math is very important. I mean, like I said, I barely graduated when it came to math. I was always that bad.
No, your math is, to this day.
I still don't get it.
Man, I tell you, and thank God one of my kids he's a math genius.
That's good. Page 26, providing borrowers relief from crushing student debt. Democrats want to authorize up to $10,000 in student debt relief per borrower to help families weather this crisis, which is the coronavirus. For people making $25,000 after 20 years of remaining federal loan debt should be automatically forgiven. So of course I had to do some research, do my statistics. This is my math, Gina. There's $1.7 trillion in student debt out there. 44.7 million Americans owe some amount of student debt. So where's the federal government going to make up this lost revenue? I can guarantee you it's coming from taxpayers. We're going to be the ones that have to pay it back.
Yeah.
Yeah, we said it earlier. I don't know where the Democrats are getting all this money from. I think they're living a pipe dream. But there's no way our country can sustain all the borrowing, all the free money, and all the loan forgiveness out there that we're heading down the path, which is wrong. You know, Democrats and Republicans need to come together to fix this broken economy and to ensure the children have a world-class education in every zip code. I agree with that. They need it. We need a world-class education. Jack, I don't have a lot more to say on world-class education. I'm sure you have a couple.
I got some things. So page 24, 4th paragraph. This is what's said. It is unacceptable, which, by the way, the Civil Rights Act is what I was thinking about. I got it, Margaret. I remembered. So, the 4th paragraph on page 24. It is unacceptable that American public schools are more racially segregated today than when Brown versus Board of Education was decided 66 years ago. Democrats support appointing judges who will enforce the Civil Rights Act. It was the Democrats that fought against the Civil Rights Act and filibustered on it. So I don't know when they took this purity shower. You know, I think they should take a look at what they got. And these numbers they're taking from, this is because it was Democratic-run cities will not allow charter schools. And that's why you have a failing disparity of minorities and non-minorities, because the minorities can't get out of the public schools. They can't. Their only hope was charter schools. And these Democratic cities, New York, San Francisco, all of California, they put the kibosh on it. And another thing I got is this early childhood work on early childhood workers. In other words, they want to get these teachers to go do this early childhood schooling. So they want to ensure that early childhood educators should have the right to organize in collective bargaining, work with the higher education institution to support their career path for early childhood education to attain their childhood certificates, and goes on and on like that. So now this one paragraph says this is what they want, but they don't. So now you need teachers. You need a building to teach them in, and for early learning, new schools, colleges, education. Who's going to do this? Where are they going to get it done from? Who's going to pay? Oh, that's right. Schools are free. So how does that come to fruition? I don't get it.
You know, Trump is the one who wanted to expand the charter schools and give people their choice to send where they want to send their kids to get educated. And for the union jobs, that's a big thing for Democrats, because I know union people mostly vote Democrat. So they're just trying to pad their numbers. But I think the people are starting to wake up out there, and they're starting to realize that their ideas are very radical, and it's only going to hurt everyone in America.
Yeah. I'm just looking at my notes here. There's so much to talk about with this. I don't know how close to the end you are with this, because the thing that scares me the most is this early childhood. They want to get these kids into the early childhood. So you're talking 3 or 4 years old going to school under their guidance. So you have these kids. A lot of these pages on early childhood daycare centers from 3 years old. So they want to pay for school. They want your kids to go to school from 3 years old through college, which is 22 years old. Where does that leave the parent putting any of their family wisdom into this child's education?
I think as a parent, we have to be very actively involved in educating our kids. We can't leave it to the school system, because look what we're getting now. Well, indoctrinating our kids on critical race theory, that we're systemic racist, that our history was bad, our founding fathers were terrible people for writing the Constitution. Where does it end? I think it ends when the parents sit their children down and say, "No, son, no, daughter, this is our history of our country. We're not racist. We've had, times in our history where, we're rather, we had a few challenges that we had to get by, and we did as a nation, we got by them. But, for all of us, for 99% of us, we all get along. We all love each other. Humanity is really, it's strong. It's going good. Even though a lot of times we think humanity sucks. But we've all come together. Look at, for like hurricanes or natural disasters, everyone pulls together and helps each other out. That's what we need for schooling. We need everybody to come together to help each other out, because our children and our grandchildren are the future, and I think that's what we need. Yeah,
well, they had another thing here: higher ed priorities and proposals, and it's if you make $125,000 or less, you get 2 years free. So, I'm laughing about this and I'm making a joke, but who knows? With the inflation that's going to be caused by all these tax raises to try and get just the education done, not the other 3 podcasts we did, $125,000 a year, that might be minimum wage. That's where it might be.
You never know.
I have 4 kids, and thank God, knock on wood, I love every one of them, and every one of them did real good in life, are doing good in life. And I always said, the key to having good kids is time. You have to put the time into your kids, and the return to giving time for your children, being involved in their school, their after-school activities, their sports, their other clubs that they belong to, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, twirling, dance, whatever it is, it's time. And your payback to it is good kids that are part of society. All their friends knew your parents. You knew all their friends' parents, and it was a good, tight community fit. The government's taking that away from you. You are not going to have any time with your children because they're going to be going to government indoctrinated schools from 3 years old to 22 years old.
What 3-year-old wants to sit in a classroom and listen to a teacher? You know, I understand you need preschool. I understand that 100%. But you also need playtime. You need time to relax, have fun, and be a kid.
Yeah.
You know, you got to be a kid. Go out there and have fun. Go out there and play kickball, play baseball, do all that stuff. Because you can't always go to school.
Well, what they're doing here is they're going to stop teaching you math. They're going to stop teaching you science. They're going to stop teaching you history. They're going to stop teaching you economics in your own home, because there's no economics in the government anymore. And now with this, starting them at 3 years old, what they're going to stop letting these kids do is use their imagination. And imagination is huge. Imagination lets you imagine you can do things. Imagination
lets you be an inventor of the next thing to help save America.
Yeah, high-speed rails that they want so bad.
Yeah, we talked about that too.
It takes all of that off of the table.
Yep, sure does. I don't have anything else on this, do you?
I have one other thing. This plan shows that the government wants to raise your children from preschool through college or trade school. They're looking to indoctrinate the American youth for 20 years. So I wish there was a bigger listening audience, because this is very important. What these Democrats are writing down here is not new. This has been done before. And when it was just done from 14 years old to 18 years old. They grabbed these kids, put them in a school, indoctrinated them, took out all the academics out of it, and just taught them indoctrination. And that school started in 1933 in Hitler's Germany. They were called Adolf Hitler Schools, AHS. And they took this right out of his page. This is exactly what Hitler did in 1933 for the youth leagues that were going to come into the army. But they only did it for 4 years. Today's Democrats want to do it for 20 years or more. So if you have children in that age, please look at what they're saying. Understand what they're saying. This is critical.
You know, we're not saying everything the Democrats recommend here is bad. You know, there are some things that are good. You know, we need to take the good and the bad and work together with our Republican, Democrats and Republican counterparts need to make the changes we need for a world-class education. I also agree that education is tough, especially in different areas of the country, inner city, with everything that's going on. But again, we can do it if we put our minds together. Life sucks half the time, but we can get by it. We all have the same opportunities to make our lives better for each of us. We have a better opportunity to make our children's lives better, But again, we can do it. Here's something I wanted to end on is, it doesn't matter what age you are, you never stop learning. I mean, Jack and I are learning here every day. I was 55 years old before I ever got my master's degree. There's an old saying that says, when a student is ready, the teacher will appear. So it doesn't matter what age. You can be 70 years old. You want to get an education? Go get one. You just have to have people believe in you and believe in yourself. I also wanted to let people know this. When we first started this podcast, we had it scripted, and we knew exactly what each of us were going to say. But I think around the fourth or fifth podcast, we stopped doing that. Yeah, I write my stuff down on the computer, and Jack writes his stuff down, but we have no clue what we're going to say to each other. So that makes it pretty fun. Like I said, I got my stuff written down. He has his, but we're not scripted out. We're just two average guys that are fed up with politics, and we decided to do something. So get on board with us. Find us on our Facebook page, United States Constitutional Group, and again on our webpage, fedupwithpolitics.com. Check out our merchandise store. We got a lot of good stuff on it. So, unless you have anything else, Jack?
Yeah, looking through my notes, I have a lot to say, but you know what? It's saying the same thing over and over again. It's another empty. You know, here's what it is. It's funny. Remember, there was quite a few podcasts at the end of the podcast that say, could you imagine if our politicians today could write the way the founding fathers did? Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the bylaws for Congress and for Congress through the Senate and Representatives, the White House. Well, this manifest is a display of what they can do. So all they do is rant. They have no ideas. They have no way of doing it. They don't know how to implement it. They look over their shoulder to somebody else help them. I'm going to say that I'm the mouthpiece, but you better do the work.
Right.
Where our founding fathers did the work.
So we're gonna wrap up section 4. I hope everybody has a chance to listen to 1, 2, and 3. So as always, knowledge is power, and we'll see you tomorrow at the tavern.